A little while ago I was sent a dragon story to illustrate, Dragon's Dinner, by Susanna Corbett, and I've never done a dragon story before, so I was quite excited by the idea of designing a dragon. The good thing about drawing a dragon, of course, is because they're mythical, which means they're made up, it means you can do whatever you like. And the dragon in this story, he's a bit rubbish really. He has a bit of a hard time, and he does a lot of chasing after things, but he never actually manages to catch anything. So I wanted to make him quite funny rather than quite mean and aggressive looking. And I thought it might be quite interesting to show you how I designed the dragon. I decided he'd have this very big head and very silly spots, and I gave him quite specifically very little wings, because I didn't want him to have gorgeous big dragony wings, because the trouble with that is he'd be able to catch stuff, and in the story he doesn't actually manage to catch anything. So I gave him these silly little wings so that he couldn't fly, and I made them quite sort of batty and pointy so they look a bit mean and evil, even though he's not very effective at being evil. So if we want to have a go at drawing a dragon, we need to get ourselves a bit of paper, a pencil that's probably not an HB. I quite like a B or a 2B for sketching with, because it's just that little bit softer and it makes it easier for making quite sort of light sketchy lines. And one thing that's worth knowing is sometimes when I watch children drawing, they often hold their pencil a little bit too near the end. They hold it like that, and what that does is it makes you draw really hard on your paper, and it's a lot easier if you hold it a little bit further back, just like that, and then you've got a little bit more movement and it's easier to draw light sketchy lines. And if we draw things with light sketchy lines, we don't have to keep rubbing out all the time, and it saves a lot of time. Okay, so if I want to start drawing an animal character, what I'd normally do is start with big simple shapes to give me an idea of where the head and body are going to go. So the dragon has quite a big head, so let's sketch in just a sort of squishy oval shape, and he's got quite a skinny neck, and then his body is actually not that much different in shape and size to his head. It's just over here a bit. Doesn't matter if these aren't quite right, I can go back and change them later. Now my dragon, I decided to give sort of pointy ears, almost rabbity type ears, and he's got silly little horns, a little bit like a giraffe. I always give my animals two eyes, even though their head might be sort of more sideways, because it makes it easier to show facial expression. So there's his eyes, and we'll imagine him sort of looking at something he might be chasing down there. Okay, I'm going to draw over the top of this now and start to bring it to life a bit, and I can alter things as I go along. So there's his ears, that's one ear, give a bit more shape, and let's draw in the first of his little giraffe horns, and there's the second one, and the other ear. So if you decide that one ear is bigger than the other, you can just sort of alter it at this point. Okay, let's draw in his eyes a bit clearer. You can make evil eyes by, first of all, making the eyelids go down in the middle like that, and then of course by giving evil eyebrows, which again should point down in the middle. Give him some bags, I think, under his eyes. Now the dragon's head is not actually an egg shape. It goes in a bit first and then it comes out a bit like that. So that gives him a bit of proper shape. And I'm going to make this into a great big evil grin up here. And then of course I can draw lots of pointy teeth. He needs big nostrils so that the smoke can get out, because of course dragons breathe fire. So put one there, and this one's over the back of course. And I'm going to open his mouth now. If I was going to close his mouth, I could just draw that line in. But if you want to open his mouth, you just put that line there, put the teeth in, and then you just join it up at the back there to where the neck is, and you've got an open mouth. Right, this shape his neck a little bit better, and his back is going to come down there, and then where I get to sort of the bottom section here, I'm just going to turn it into a big long tail, and you can wiggle that off wherever you like. and the other side of his tail. And gets closer and closer and closer, and then ends in a sort of triangle, dragony sort of triangle. Now my dragon was based on a T-Rex, and T-Rexes have quite little front arms, don't they? So I gave him these funny little arms. One at the front and one at the back, and then I can bring his belly down there, following the line I drew earlier. Right, big back legs. So let's start them there, somewhere in the middle of his belly, and put them right down here. And again, like a T-Rex, he's going to have feet that bend a bit in the middle there, and then big sausagey toes. Now the other leg, if he's running, needs to come out the back here. So we're going to start about there. And half of it, of course, is missing because it's behind where his tail is. And then if you're running, you want that back foot to face downwards at the floor. Okay, let's give him a bit of dust and stuff to make him run a bit faster. And maybe some claws. And of course his wings. So you can only see one. It's going to be quite small. It's almost like drawing a roof shape, really. And then you just put all the pointy bits in until you get back there. One wing. And I gave him scales all the way up his nose. So that's sort of like triangular shapes, really. And then you can do those all the way down his back as well. So let's have a look. Sort of bigger as you get towards the middle of his back. And then as you go down his tail, getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Right, what's left? Bit of fire, I think. And some smoke. And some spots, of course. I made them all different shapes and sizes. That's quite good, because then you haven't got to sort of worry about whether you're doing them big enough, because it can't be wrong, really, can it, if they're all different shapes and sizes. Right, what's left? Let's just give him some hills in the background. And a volcano. There we go. All you do is flatten off one of your hills. And then you can put a big explosion. A bit of lava. And some boulders and things being chucked out. So there we are. One dragon, what do you think? You can have a go now yourself.